Hello, and thank you for joining me today. My name is Ian Pearson, and I'm going to be telling you about a famous composer of the late 16th century. Now, before I get started, I want you to imagine yourself as a 5-year-old again, but this time you are considered a child prodigy, and you're traveling the USA playing for the state and local officials of the government, and you're getting paid to do it. Now, there was a man who did this and much more. His name is Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, and he was literally a genius. Um, Now, after extensive research and lots of hours, many hours of listening to his music, I have learned many interesting things about this man. He was a child prodigy. Not all of his life was successful. He was really a failure most of his life, and especially during the ending years of his life were really a struggle for him. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that later on. Now, Mozart's legacy lives on because of his title as a child prodigy and because of the triumphs and failures that made up who he was, and because of what he did in the last years of his life that really made his legacy stick around 200 years later after he's died. Now, before I tell you about Mozart, I'm going to tell you about about Europe during this time period. The authors and editors at biography.com, who it's their job to provide accurate and cited information published on their website that Europe during this time is kind of going through a transition phase from the Holy Roman Empire to all these small local kind of city-state governments, and they all are competing against each other to be the best. They all want to entertain their people the most and just have the most culture. So that's why this is happening. Now, when Mozart was a kid, he really had a kind of a not a normal childhood because he was a child prodigy, because he had an exceptional talent. He was an amazing musician as a kid. He would tour the country with his father, and I imagine he was having a blast. He met Johann Sebastian Bach, who was a heavy influence on him, and he did many other great things as well when he was a child. But once he got older, things became a little bit harder for him because he wasn't a kid and people just expected this stuff from him. So he really had to try a lot more. According to Linda Adrian, he started to earn a salary composing for the Salzburg court and other private patrons, during this time period in his life. He was probably around my age, probably around 15 or 16. I'm older than that, but I imagine that's about how old he was. But after that, he wanted to move to Paris to work a little more, which was unsuccessful, and his mother died a year after them being there. And nobody liked his music, so he was really just, he was struggling. He was struggling during this time period. He was very poor most of his life. So after his mother died, he moved back home, couldn't find any work there, moved to Vienna. People of Vienna didn't like his music, so he just became even more poor. By this time, he had a family he was trying to raise, and he just wasn't making ends meet, which was very sad because this was a very talented man. He was a genius, and it's just hard to see someone go out like that. But he did love what he was doing. He had composed all of his life up until the last month of his life, which is what Steve Borner said in 2011 on his website that he owns. He is an expert on Mozart. He is the owner of a website called themozartproject.org. Now, to conclude, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about Mozart. Mozart's musical talent changed the world because of his love for music, especially as a child, and the tragedies and triumphs he pushed through because of his love for music, and what the final years of his life were like, and what his wife did once he passed, which was, say that, oh yes, Mozart wrote this, because he had hundreds and hundreds of compositions that didn't even have his name on it, and she put his name on there. So Mozart was a genius who was not afraid to try something new, even if the people didn't like it, even if it was poor. So the next time you do something you love and are criticized for it, remember Mozart. Thank you.